One of the most telling pictures of me as a little girl is when I had a group counseling session for my Care Bears. And I mean, other than Grumpy Bear, for obvious reasons, I remember group being a success. Flashing forward several decades later, I actually became a licensed children's therapist to other adorable, smaller creatures who are just louder and messier and use way more glitter glue. I've built a counseling practice from the ground up, and I usually tell new families that my office is essentially a therapeutic Disneyland. On good days, I can feel so proud of creating exactly what I dreamt of in grad school. PTSD whispers, if they only knew. So here's my story, because I am tired of that taunting voice. Tired of not just saying the words out loud, and tired of not owning my life experiences and therefore my own power. When I was 12 years old, my mom was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer, and in misguided wisdom, thought it would be a good idea for me to have a therapeutic boarding school experience so I wouldn't have to deal with her illness and subsequent issues. My only crime was having an attitude, a 12-year-old one. In the middle of the night, she and my stepdad organized a paid kidnapping, and I was in the car in my sleep shorts without my glasses for the drive, with my hands under the seatbelts and driven from Las Vegas to Utah. What my parents didn't know was that the place would one day have so many lawsuits that a lawyer at a firm's sole responsibility was to deal with the carnage from this horrible place. The center was really a cleverly disguised pyramid scheme ran by pedophiles and sadists. I was raped and beaten several times a day, every single day, for exactly 360 days. It was 5 years ago that I first started talking about that year, and it's been brutal. I finished a master's degree in counseling without uttering a word of my experience to a single soul for 20 years. Side note, not super wise. It's not like I forgot, but I shoved it down so deep in a genuine belief that that was then and this is now, and I am fine now, thank you very much. I built a whole life on achievements, education, friendships, and service. I remember taking a trauma, grief, and loss class, and I was so disconnected from my own story that it didn't even dawn on me to feel anything personally. I moved to Colorado in 2009 primarily to be a part of an amazing faith community called The Refuge, who have become my actual family. On paper, I'm technically orphaned, but in reality, I've been adopted into a new family. I had plans at The Refuge to be a listener and a healer, and a superwoman in support of a community that values authenticity and transparency. Apparently, though, it's more of a model of we all give, we all receive. Hashtag plot twist. It was at a small dinner party on our leadership team where we were laughing and joking about the trouble we had gotten into as kids. Someone mentioned a brief stint in juvie, someone else said something about a day in jail for a protest, and I said, completely unguarded and without thinking, yeah, I was locked up for 360 days when I was a kid. Heads slowly turned to look at me. Pandora's box was now officially opened. Out came the gushing of all the contents and pain, and it knocked the wind out of me. Oh, Pandora's box, the gift that keeps on giving. With that finally acknowledged year of hell came all the things. PTSD impacted every aspect of my life, and I was having a hard time being triggered by simply life in general. And as those of you who've done your own work know, the stuff had no intention of going back in the box. All of the memories bombarded me day in and day out. I was triggered by the mention of 8th grade because I missed the entire year, but people were told I ran away. Good times. Feeling trapped would send me into a panic. Like if I were at the drive-thru at my bank and someone did something outrageous, like pull in behind me, or talk with a hint of anger, or do one of a million mannerisms that reminded me of my experience, it would send me into deep breath panic mode. I was scared of most males I encountered, which is unfortunate considering the whole statistical count of the male-female makeup of the world. I started my own therapy as a client. Hats off to therapists of therapists. I was diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder, and I also saw a psychiatrist and started medications that I absolutely believe saved my life. In the meantime, I had to hold on in that horrible in-between space of despair and weak hope that medication can help you breathe on your own again. My beautiful and faithful golden retriever Rusty also died that year after a 2-week diagnosis, and I was spiraling down fast. One of my dearest friends bought me a golden puppy 11 days later. Aw, right? Does Zoe not look like she wishes there were a mental status exam prior to adoption? I mean, really. Zoe saved my life due to making me responsible for hers, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. When I started rapidly slipping down the depression slide, it was really dark, and it did not appear that there was a safe exit lane. Zoe was there when I woke up screaming in terror night after night. She thought it was a cue to pee, though, so there's that. Sleep was not at all a relief, but rather a mandatory timed event to be endured. Paralysis was often a theme, and my mom, who died of breast cancer when I was 22, often made an appearance as a passive witness to the assaults. So I have a love-hate relationship with sleep, and it absolutely 100% contributes to my depression. It's been explained to me that since sleep deprivation was used as a punishment in my trauma, not getting the right amount for me has a layered impact. Because one cannot predict the presence of nightmares, it can make the evenings rough. Sometimes I don't have the energy to fight to stay sleeping and calculate the cost of just not. I felt like I was in a dark ocean with a ball and chain, and I just forgot how to swim. My body was going numb anyways, and I just couldn't seem to make myself care very much about the seaweeds ominously wrapping around my ankles. I just wanted to stop fighting the darkness. It's the reliving that's the worst. PTSD whispers, "I'm going to haunt you. Always." When I'm triggered, all the memories come flooding, and really without much warning. I feel haunted. I want to yell at my friends. This is why I am not worth the hassle. I told you I'm never getting better, and you had the audacity to not believe me. My brain whispers to me that the best thing that you can do, the most noble act of love, is to disappear and let them off the hook. I had nightmares which turned into daydreams, which turned into fantasies, which turned into plans about leaving the world. I had vivid dreams of my funeral, where they're all wearing purple because they pay attention. And I'm walking up as a departed being to each of my dear friends, saying to them one by one, "You're welcome. Do you not see that I gave you the biggest gift I could? That I get that my pain outweighs any resource, so I held up my white flag so you did not have to. You're welcome. I'm so sorry you're sad, but what is that compared to a life of being my support?" All of the precious kids in my personal life were there too, and I knelt down and whispered to them one by one, "Hey, sweetie, you might not understand right now, but trust me, you're welcome." I loved them so much that I didn't want to be the one who was their role model any longer. The position is now open to someone who's really worthy of your admiration. You're welcome in advance. But nobody ever thanks me. Except in the sane moments when I think they would be sad. And yet, honest to God, I feel like I would be doing them a favor. They say they love me, they need me, they support me. There's hope beyond this. I want to believe them. I want to believe them. But sometimes it feels like there's a bouncer who's outside the entrance to my frontal lobe. Nope. What if I was wrong, though? There are no do-overs in completed suicides. It was Christmas of 2011, and I could not force myself to go celebrate the holidays with my family. Could not do it. Literally, I only got out of bed to take Zoe outside, and I thought maybe nobody would notice my absence. I never claimed depression made me smarter. So I started to truly badly tank the last few days of 2011, and I kept getting stuck in a mental loop about how I didn't want to start another year with this pain. The agony I felt was so great that I wanted to end it all before 2012. I had always been excited at the start of a fresh new year, but then it spoke to me of a continuation of a pain cycle that I wanted to finally end. You're not worth fighting for, I hear in my own voice, the hissing of the enemy within. I finally said that message out loud to a trusted friend. What was playing out in my head because I was seriously afraid of the power of my own brain. I made a promise to stay safe, and because of that whole integrity thing, honored it. Had I not made that connection that night, I would have undoubtedly taken my life. However, I turned off my phone to sleep and used an appropriate dosage of Tylenol PM to knock myself out fast. When I woke up, there was a devastating message from my adopted mom, who clearly had extreme panic in her voice about my well-being. It was really late in the afternoon and I was still asleep. I realized I couldn't bear to put my people through agony like that any longer. Something had to shift, and I got serious about my own recovery. If not for me, for my people. I practiced breathing. I started kickboxing. I forced myself to show up when I really wanted to hide. I started talking about memories with trusted friends and stopped blocking what I needed to feel. Because while I was entirely out of hope for me, I borrowed some from my dear friends who were not willing to let me stay in the dark. Let it be no mistake that it is because of my people that I chose to stay alive longer. Our allies, while absolutely not being responsible for anyone's life, can help breathe renewed hope when it is elusive. What has given me the emotional oxygen to carry on? I could not have better friends. One of my best friends, Anne, recently cut out the hard parts of her People magazine with J.C. Dugard's story so I could read it if I wanted without triggers. Friends pay for counseling, freaking dog. They warn me about books or movies with sexual violence or just something I shouldn't see theme, which feels so incredibly loving and protective to me. Helps me feel safe. Here's the thing. When it gets dark, scary, and hopeless in my head, I still have suicidal thoughts. When I get into a dark place, even to this day, my brain starts plotting a way out of this world. I tell myself that my friends would be better off, and since they simply won't give up on me, I will gracefully exit so they can carry on without me. But in reminding myself of truth I know now, that my life matters, after showing up time and time again in therapy, I can now clearly see that it isn't a noble act of love to leave. Now my emotional energy transforms from strategically planning the end of my life into deep gratitude for my amazing friends for loving me so damn well, and also for the gift of the life I now lead. I've learned to say, I'm in a really, really dark place, but I need you to know that I'm safe. One of my dearest friends, Kathy, told me that I would likely always struggle with suicidal ideation, and it was a matter of not being so mad at myself that it returned. To ride the wave as the roll doesn't last forever. I'm beginning to believe she's right. My hope is that through shared experience, I can help at least one person feel less alone and more able to sincerely ask for help without the ridiculous yet pervasive stigma attached. That hearing a mental health professional say out loud, sometimes suicide feels like the only realistic exit sign, is freeing in a way to be able to get help before it's too late. I hope that at the actual end of my life, God will say, Stacy, right? And I'll pretend to not be offended. But then God says, thanks for not giving up your life before more than half the chapters were through. You would have missed out on so much beauty, so much hope, so much joy. Your people would truly grieve, and it would be so unfortunate to lose you so soon. Your name means resurrection, and your life's journey attests to that truth. Thank you for fighting so others may live. And I'll say, no problem. And hey, you're welcome. Woo!